Hello, welcome to chapter 2. And so my transformation journey, my up-leveling journey basically started early 2022, but actually really started in first 18 months of my life, because in 2022 I commenced on a vision therapy program to overcome an eye defect, and this eye defect occurred from my knowledge in the first 18 months of my development, and I'll come on to that in chapter 3 because that is hugely relevant. So in January 2022 I commenced this vision therapy, which I was told by my vision therapist to take it very slowly and gently, because we didn't want to overwhelm my central nervous system, because I was retraining my brain, building new neural pathways, and also making a lot of changes and adaptations to my motor skills, so like right, left brain coordination, all those sorts of things. And there was lots of sort of exercises. And being the person that I am, I got very enthusiastic and I went all in, and I was doing up to an hour a day. I got very enthusiastic, and very quickly, I remember I think it was March, and obviously I can't even remember if there were any restrictions still in place then from COVID, but certainly we hadn't really seen much of family, and some family members came to stay. And I just remember it being very busy but happy time. And I remember I was very physically active. I ran and, jogged. Anyways, we were going for a big family lunch, and I was walking. It was about a 40-minute walk with my husband, very gentle, and my ankle started to hurt. So this is where the TMS journey starts. And TMS, for those who don't know, tension Myositis Syndrome, the phrase from Dr.John Sarno, who is no longer with us, but he did an enormous amount of work in I think I've got this right, the 70s and the 80s, possibly the 90s, on what he called or coined TMS, which is, at that point, he identified it for sort of things like back pain, where the brain creates this pain to distract us, to protect us from suppressed emotions. So that's where that kind of started. But now in the modern world, TMS, the mind-body connection, and from people that I've learned a lot from, people like Dan Buglio, where actually it's really developed this concept of the brain develops pain, but a whole raft of other symptoms to keep us safe, to protect us, to distract us, because the brain's primary job is to keep us safe, to keep us alive, is perceiving danger. I didn't think I'd be able to do this very eloquently, and I'll try to get better. But I didn't know any of this at the time, and I started to develop all of these symptoms. And it started with Achilles tendonitis, and that then grew into, I went to the physio, and they said, oh no, you've been running too much, you've increased your mileage. I now know better that increasing my running time, I think it was by about 10 minutes a day, wouldn't do that. And I was going to the physio every week because it got worse. And then my back problem started. Then I developed pain in my hands, and the same physiotherapist said I'd got the beginnings of carpal tunnel, and I would probably at some point need surgery. And the symptoms just started to get worse and worse. And I'll cover this in the next video, along with more about the eye defect. But I was pretty much brought to my knees physically by these that I now know to be TMS symptoms, that I not only could I not run, I could barely walk. And I went on holiday with my husband in the May, and I couldn't even carry my own beach bag that just had a beach towel in it. And no running, I could barely walk. The pain was so bad, and I was terrified. I would wake up in the middle of the night thinking, am I going to end up in a wheelchair? Am I going to become bedridden? Because the more physiotherapy I have, the worse I seem to be getting, not better. And that started this whole journey. And as we can see, well, okay, I'm walking, but I do not have Achilles tendonitis. I never had Achilles tendonitis. I did not have surgery because I did not have carpal tunnel. My back is perfectly fine. I lift weights. I run again. Well, I can't because I dropped a weight on my toe, so I'm incapacitated, but I cycle. I do yoga, I do Pilates, and in May this year, I did my first half marathon. So if your vibe is learning about the mind-body losing my words, concept, and you have a whole raft of symptoms from, oh my God, I had things like facial hives, bloating, migraines, shoulder pain, sometimes my vision would go blurry, dizziness. I mean, look it up. Look up Dr. John Sarno, look up Dan Buglio, Pain Free You, and see what you think. And if you're on board and you're open to it, then I will happily share my experience of recovering from this and how I also use some of those learnings and those tools in my recovery from breast cancer a year later. Okay.